Hi class, let's have a quick chat. I received your mid-course student feedback. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but anyway, I received your feedback. Thank you for everyone that participated in that. I appreciate it. One of the things a couple of you said was that you wanted to have these videos earlier in the week. So we're trying to do it earlier in the week. I apologize. It is very likely that someone is going to come in screaming shortly, but hopefully I bribed them enough to stay out for the duration of this video. I can hear them, so that seems unlikely. Anyway, so let's jump right into it. Last week you worked on the survey and the method section. You have not received feedback on the method section. I'm hoping to get through that, crank through that pretty quickly, but you have all received feedback on your surveys. This is the most important feedback that you will receive this week, that survey feedback. So the majority of groups were asked to significantly revise your survey. If you were asked to do that, you need to make those revisions very, very quickly by the date listed in the feedback and email it back to me. Email. Do not submit it via Canvas. Please do not, because it will be hard to find, hard to track down. I will not receive an email. I will say that you didn't do it. You will say that you did do it. We will both be annoyed. So email me your revised survey. Email me your revised survey by the date listed in the feedback. I will base your grade for this assignment on the revised survey, unless we get to the due date and you have not submitted it yet. If you have not submitted it, I will grade your original survey, and that will be sad because your grade will be significantly lower than it would be on that revised survey. So please make sure that you do that. Also, you cannot submit your application to the IRB with the survey in its original form. So if you choose not to revise the survey in time to have that graded, then you still have to make those revisions, or the IRB will reject your survey, and then you will be sad, and we will come back and we will revise the survey. We will resubmit the IRB application. We will hope that they do not find any other issues with it. So if your assumption is, I can sneak through the IRB with the survey that I have now, unless it has already been approved, to save time, that is a very bad assumption. Please, please, please don't do this. Please don't do that. I have seen a number of students do that in the past. It does not turn out well. If your survey is flagged by the IRB, the second time through, they will scrutinize it even more closely. Then they will ask you to revise it again and again. And what you thought should take 5 business days will end up taking significantly longer and slow you down. So this is one of those things. You need to do it right the first time. You need to make sure that survey follows the feedback that I provided in its entirety, and that you have filled out that IRB application correctly. Please do this correctly. I am begging you, please do this correctly. Please do not get flagged by the IRB. If you are a group who I have identified several questions may being flagged by the IRB, this is not the moment for you to panic. For example, there are some groups that are doing vaccinations or flu vaccinations specifically. There is the possibility that the IRB will flag some of those questions as inappropriate, or may say that you need to revise those to reduce the threat of harm. If that is the case, that will be fine. You will be provided with some direct contact information. You will make those very quick revisions. The reason that we're leaving those questions as they are, and this is only if I have specified to leave those questions and identified them as potentially being flagged by the IRB, is because it depends entirely on who from the IRB is reviewing your application. Certain people view certain questions as more threatening. They have an overall standard of risk that they are assessing, but we're going to leave those questions in. So if you're one of the vaccination groups and I said, this may get flagged by the IRB, just leave it as it is, unless I've already told you to rewrite it. But several things to keep in mind, as we have said before, this survey is your only means of collecting data for your research project. You cannot answer your research questions with a 6-question survey. You cannot. Even if you write the best 6 questions of your life, it's just not enough data to answer the survey. So your survey needs to be 20 to 25 questions, including 5 to 7 demographic questions. As you're assessing which demographic questions you need, think about what kind of groups you can break people into. So gender is one that you must have, age is one that you typically have, education level is something that you might have, marital status. Those are things that you might have because you can separate out those groups to see if some of those things influence their responses. It is likely, for example, with sleep, that if you're asking how many children they live in their house as a basic demographic question, that is going to significantly impact the type of sleep that they get, as will income if you're looking at stress, age, things like that. So you need to have those. We can't go back in and add that in later. So please make sure that you take care of it now. 1 second. Oh, great. I love you. Can you go out and shut the door, please? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Okay, so surveys. You are revising those. You are resubmitting them via email. I will grade the resubmitted ones, assuming that they are done by the due date. You will receive feedback on your method section. Whether or not your method section is perfect right now is fine. You will receive significant feedback so that you can polish that up for the final end of semester report. But the basic things in the method section can be in there even if it is not perfect. So now let's talk about that pre-IRB application. This is submitted by one person. I'm just going to pull up those requirements really quick. That is submitted by one person to me. Make sure that we've ticked all the boxes, make sure that everything is where it needs to be so that you can submit your final IRB application. This is pretty quick, but make sure that you follow that rubric very closely. One of the things this talks about is it is step 4. And step 4 says a link to your group's final survey. Make sure you have incorporated your instructor's feedback. Assignments submitted with repeat mistakes will not be graded. Okay, so the majority of you are going to do electronic surveys. I highly recommend that you do electronic surveys. If you are one of the groups that's thinking pen and pencil surveys, please send me a quick email and talk to me about why you have made that choice. The reason I say that you should not make that choice is it is hard to get people to answer pen and pencil. You get what I'm saying. Pen and paper surveys, it's hard to get people to answer those in the first place. It's hard to get them to stop what they're doing long enough to do it, as opposed to an electronic survey that can be answered on their phone. And then you have to enter all that data, which data entry isn't that fun. And there's a lot of room for error in data entry if you are the one doing it. But if you are having an electronic survey, then it shortens the time for data entry because there's none, and it reduces the amount of error. So I highly recommend that you use an online survey. I highly recommend that you use Qualtrics. There are a lot of really cool features in the full version of Qualtrics, which as a BYU Idaho student, you can use for free through the university. And the directions for setting up your free university Qualtrics account can be found in the survey assignment directions, that week 5 survey assignment. You need to create a Qualtrics account through BYU Idaho. If you already have one, awesome, use that. Do not go to Qualtrics in general and sign up for a free trial account. That is not what you want. A student account gives you the full version, which includes all of the analytic tools and lets you send out as many surveys as you want. So you want to follow those directions as listed in the survey assignment. Just click that link and it will take you to where you need to go to sign up for your free Qualtrics account. Please do that. If you are one of the people that is against Qualtrics, then it's okay to be against Qualtrics. You are welcome to use Google Forms, though the analytic tools are not quite as powerful, or that's not true. The analytic tools in Google Forms are not quite as intuitive as they are in Qualtrics. So you are welcome to use Google Forms if you would prefer. But I highly recommend that you use Qualtrics just for the analytic tools that you will find on the back end. So you get your survey approved. You put it electronically, so enter all the questions, and then you include a link to that electronic survey as part of your pre-IRB application. Do not make the survey go live until everything is approved. And you will be sending out the link to the survey. You won't be sending out like a PDF or anything like that. A link to the survey, just like you get for like the course evaluations or any other thing that you get for BYU Idaho. So people click the link, fill in their responses, and go. As you're doing that, you may choose to break that into several different blocks. So you may say, okay, this set of questions is one block, have people answer all of those. Okay, great. Now go on to the next block, or you can have each question on a separate page. There's a number of design tools. You'll see them when you get into Qualtrics. If you have any questions about it, let me know. It's hard to explain unless you've seen them already. So go ahead, take a peek at Qualtrics. Any and all of you should sign up for Qualtrics. accounts. One person needs to enter the survey because you have one survey that you are sending out, and then you need to invite all of your group members as collaborators on that survey so they can see the responses as they come in, but really one person is going to be the one that needs to enter that. Okay, so once you've done that, gotten the survey feedback, you'll get the methods feedback, you're doing that pre-IRB application, then let me turn your attention to the quiz. We have a quiz on ethics this week. So ethics is something that we breeze through really quickly in this class, which is unfortunate because ethics is a great part of research. Ethics is my favorite week of research. So please do the reading on ethics. It's great. But as you do this, start thinking that a standardized set of ethics for research was not established until the 1970s. See, for me, the 1970s seems like a long time ago because I wasn't alive in the 1970s, but it's really not that long ago. You know people, or you are a person who was alive in the 1970s. So think about that for a second. We have gone all this time in medical research, psychological research, public health research, scientific research in general, and had no uniform set of ethics. That's a little bit horrifying. Think of all the things that have been done to people because there was not a uniform set of ethics. So if you are saying, Sister Sugar, why are you being so annoying about these questions? This question is not presenting harm to people. We used to be all the way on the other end where people, scientists, researchers, pretty much got to do whatever they wanted. And now we've swung to the other side where our goal is to mitigate risk and increase benefits to people. So that is why I'm saying, oh, that question might make someone uncomfortable because some of those things haven't been explored before. This week, we're going to dive slightly into the Tuskegee study. We're going to talk a little bit about the MMR autism controversy, but just start thinking about that. Think about all of those psychological experiments, medical experiments that you've heard about, that all of a sudden it's clicking. Wait, people were allowed to do that because there were no rules. Yes, people were allowed to do that because there were no rules. It wasn't allowed to do it. No one was checking them. So now we have the IRB, and the IRB mitigates risk for people. You may find them a bit annoying, but they are very, very important. So we're going to do this quiz. This quiz, I believe that you only get one attempt, but you can use your notes if you want. Just a couple of things, 7 things that I would like you to keep in mind. First, research is only ethical if the risks are outweighed by the benefits. So risk outweighed by benefits. This is in the reading. I just want to further emphasize this. So a couple of examples of risks to participants are a loss of privacy, psychological harm, failed treatment, and physical harm. 4 risks: loss of privacy, psychological harm, failed treatment, physical harm. We talked a little bit about this, and you'll see it in the reading, but there are some groups that have had a greater share of experimentation, a greater share of harm to them, shall we say. You may have read in this reading, doesn't touch too deeply on it, but you may have in some other classes, I'm sure that you've heard or read in other books, that significant experiments have done to various ethnic groups. Tuskegee is one of those great examples done to African Americans in males in Alabama, beginning in the late 1930s. Okay, various ethnic groups, disabled individuals, institutions for let's rewind. Institutions for a long time, especially mental health institutions, were where researchers would go to harvest participants, whether that was ethical or not. We're just going to say it's unethical. Blanket statement. It was unethical what they did, but they experimented because the people weren't able to say no. They didn't have family members who were watching what was happening. The people themselves did not have the capacity to say no. So institutionalized individuals, prisoners, they were often included in these experiments where really terrible things happened to them. The same with disabled people. Maybe they weren't in an institution, but they were somehow disabled. They were experimented on as well. So you're going to read a little bit about that. But the one group that we haven't heard a lot about that experimentation happening to them is children. That's not to say children were not exposed to unnecessary risks. They most definitely were, but we don't have some of those very famous examples. So the group not exposed to risk is children, just case that comes up for you on the quiz. Yeah. Okay, so as we're going into this research, one's ability to make their own choices is defined as autonomy. Ability to make your own choices, autonomy. This is kind of where informed consent is going to come in. You need to include a bit of informed consent in your survey, but informed consent is a much bigger thing if you are having a larger scale study or something that involves more risk. So you will have people sign things, and usually it will be explained to them verbally as well. Sometimes there's a video, it just depends on the type of experiment that they're involved in. And anonymity is one of the ways to maintain confidentiality or privacy. So oftentimes, if you record an individual's name as a participant in a study, you will keep the name very far away from the data, 2 separate places, so the 2 can never be linked. Or, for example, in the case of your survey, you're never going to collect their personal identification information. Yep, my kids have come home, so my brain has gone. Okay, so I talked a little bit earlier about how there wasn't a really solid set of ethics until the 1970s, but there were a few things that came before that, and then we have the 1970s. So the Nuremberg Code is our first step, our first worldwide step towards developing a set of ethics, and that provided a standard to compare some of the Nazi atrocities to ethical research. Following that was the Declaration of Helsinki, which introduced the idea of review by an independent committee. So this is where you start to see the IRB come in. Declaration of Helsinki, idea of an independent review committee. The Belmont Report outlined the principles of justice, respect for persons beneficent as a key tenet of research. So this comes following the Declaration of Helsinki. Belmont Report, outlined the principles of justice, respect for persons, beneficent as key tenets for research. And then finally, the Federal Policy for the Protection of Human Subjects. And that is the one that requires all research that has any federal funding. So this basically touches on all research that has to do with universities, hospitals, cities, etc. That's outlined really well in your reading. They are required to comply with federal policy for protection of human subjects. And this is the thing that we use now that really sets the standard for ethical research. Okay, so all of those things lead to the setup of the IRB. And the IRB exists to ensure that the consent process is sound, that the risks to participants are minimized, and the benefits outweigh the risks. All of those items are on your quiz. The quiz is not that difficult. Just do the reading. It is in the reading. You are more than welcome to take notes and include those as you go through the quiz, but you can't use a partner. It's the only thing we pretty much can't use for the quiz. So that's where we're going this week. Next week, we are heading into the peer evaluation of the literature review. That assignment is due on Halloween. Bummer. So I would do that before Halloween or before you go out to get the free candy. So what does this mean? It means that you are very shortly going to get a group assignment, and that group assignment is going to be who you are going to peer evaluate, whose literature review assignments you are going to evaluate. You're going to read through each other's, make comments, mark things up, etc. That group assignment is just the people that you will be evaluating. Remember that this peer evaluation literature review assignment requires not only that you have a polished paper, a polished lit review, but also that you record yourself reading it out loud. I know it is uncomfortable. I know it is uncomfortable to see yourself speak out loud. Trust me, I watch these videos every week and I'm horrified. So I feel your pain, but this is going to help you catch some of those things. It also gives you another opportunity to express what you're saying, kind of see how it flows together. So you must do that. Follow the directions for how to upload your Zoom video to a cloud and then attach those into your post. Like I said, those group assignments will be coming shortly-ish in the next couple of days, but that peer evaluation lit review is due on Halloween. So you have to submit your stuff, but you don't have to have evaluated your peers. You have to evaluate your peers. You have a week and a half or so to evaluate your peers. So get going on that. If you have any questions about your lit review, please let me know. The lit review is worth quite a few points in this class. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. If you do it and you think, I do not know if I did this right, don't hesitate to email it over. I am happy to provide you with more feedback than you ever wished that you had. So have a wonderful week. I hope that having this video, though disjointed and interrupted, and yeah, I hope that it's helpful to have it earlier in the week. Have a great week.